Hey everybody, welcome back to the Getting It Wrong podcast, where we unlearn harmful ideals, beliefs, and ideologies that we might be holding on to, and we get practical ways to live a more holistic and balanced lifestyle. And we embrace our mistakes here because getting it wrong is the first step to getting it right. I am your co-host, Gabby.
And I'm Morgan. Let's get into it.
Hey everybody, we're back with our Wellness Wednesday with the Getting It Wrong podcast. Today we are going to be talking about what we get wrong when it comes to parenting. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot you get wrong when it comes to parenting. So we're not going to talk about everything today, but
no, we don't have the time.
We do not have the time. So we're just going to talk about a few things. I wouldn't even say the most important things, but some things that I can relate to maybe. So, number one, invalidating our kids' experiences. This is something that I feel like parents do often. I do it myself sometimes. Even if I don't say it out loud, I do it in my head. Mm-hmm. Because the things that kids go through, like with parents, like when you're older, you're just like, that's kind of dumb. Or like, that's silly.
Yeah, but it's so real to them.
It's so real. It's so important. And you have to validate their feelings when it comes to these things. Mm-hmm. Like, especially when it comes to just the most mundane things like toys. Like my child, Nia, she was having a breakdown that she left her unicorn at school one day. Like she cried the whole way from school to our destination. And in my mind, I'm just like, if you don't be quiet about this unicorn, you have like 10 unicorns at home. Like, can we chill? Why can't we just chill? But I had to like take a deep breath and just be like, mm-hmm. I understand that you're upset that you left your unicorn at school. What if we get to school really early tomorrow? Okay. And maybe we can find it before anybody else gets there. And that calmed her down. I mean, it took me about 10 minutes of her crying before I came to that conclusion, but
that's a nice long cry.
Yeah, it is. It didn't stop. It was very consistent, very loud. Yes. But it's nice like you still have to validate these experiences with them. You can't just blow it off, because I feel like it can really mess with their self-esteem. It can really mess with how they feel about themselves as a person. Like, okay, if my feelings don't matter about this, maybe my feelings don't matter about anything.
Yeah. No, I definitely get it. And especially if like, I think it's the worst for me when I have something important going on that is, I mean, in all honesty, it is more important than what they are talking about. But in the, like, in her world, it is not, it's just as important as what I have going on. So like for Zara, my daughter. So like, for example, we'll be like getting ready for school and she wants to make sure that her babies are tucked in bed so they're not cold while she's at school all day. And that's very important to her. But it's also important that I'm not late to work and she's not late to school. So for me, I'm like, girl, they're not real. Let's go. And I've been there like most of the time. I'm like, oh, I don't know if you guys have seen the thread about like Rocco versus Elmo. It's like a whole thread where Elmo is okay.
No.
Take the time. Okay, so people were like, it was a whole thread about Elmo clearly being Black because of the way he like said certain stuff. And there was a specific thread. I think I found like, it was on Embracing Black Culture. Yeah, I know I'd be on there all the time, like their Instagram page. And they had like put all the the tweets together. One of them was like Rocco, Zoe, which is another Sesame Street character, and Elmo. Basically, Zoe has a pet rock, and they're all eating like cookies, and Elmo's like, oh, I don't want the chocolate chip, I want oatmeal raisin. And they're like, oh, it's all gone. Rocco, the pet rock, got the last oatmeal raisin cookie, and he's like, oh, I can't just eat this one right here sitting in front of this rock. And Zoe's like, no, Rocco's gonna eat that. And he's like, how, Zoe? How is she gonna eat this cookie? He's like, she's not real. She's not even alive. She doesn't have a mouth. So yeah, that's how I felt about them dolls. Moral of the story. Yeah, and I'm like, but what is real is me being late to work. We can't have that. So basically, I 100% understand this. Like how what you feel like you have going on can be way more important than what they have going on. But it's so important to them that we as parents should take the time to make it important to us as well.
So, and so how do you think you can make the time to make that important to you and her? Does that question make sense?
I've tried. There was one instance where I was like, okay, Zara, like getting you ready for bed takes longer because you tuck your babies in bed too. And you make sure they have on cute outfits for pajamas. You make sure they have on fresh diapers. It takes a long time. So I started at one point. She hasn't been as like stressed about getting them ready for bed lately. But while she was, I was like, Zara, take this time right now to get your babies ready for bed. We'll make time for it. Now that I know it's this important to you, we put aside some time for it. So that it's not as like, we're not like on a time crunch getting her to sleep. So I made specific time for her to get her babies ready for bed. And then we still made sure she got, in the tub, and we did our normal routine. So,
okay. Yeah.
Try that.
I think that's very important you just have to make the time.
Yeah.
For example, Nia loves making her bed up in the morning. And because I've always stressed that that's very important. And I told her that it was her job. But she just takes a long time doing it. She takes such a long time making up her bed. But I mean, she's learning. It's better to start now. She'll get faster when she gets older. But sometimes I'm just like, we woke up late today. We got to go. There was one day where I made the bed up for her. I kind of left to go to the kitchen to get something, and I came back and she literally took all the sheets and covers off the bed.
No.
So she can make it up herself. She was like, how dare you? So I was like, okay,
stay in your lane.
Pretty much.
That's what she said.
Pretty much. And I was like, okay, I see how much this is important to her, and we definitely have to make the time so she can make up the bed herself. Because instead of me because when we're late, I just want to do everything myself. Like, okay, we got to do this.
Girl,
this. But I'm like, even on the days that we are late, I realize that I still have to let her make up the bed, because if not, it sets the tone for the day. I'm serious. It really does. If I let her make up her bed, everything runs smoothly. But if I invalidate her feelings and just do everything myself, she has an attitude, and it makes every single step after that harder than what it would have to be to get out of the house.
Oh, child, I need to learn that lesson. Because I will. Yeah, getting ready in the morning is a struggle.
I mean, and what helps the most is waking up early, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So it's like, what do you do? So it's like, what do you do when it doesn't happen? And sometimes you just have to accept the fact that you're going to be late, and just try to make it as smooth as possible, as smooth of a process as possible.
Right. Yes, absolutely. That's a great point.
And so that takes me to my next point, which is the second thing that we get wrong is not doing the proper research on how our child is developing and what they're going through. And Morgan, you brought this point up to me, and I believe you've said it in one of our previous podcast episodes before.
Yeah.
That when the babies are really young, we're doing all this research, we're catering to them, we're knowing what stage of development they're in and how we can help them. It gives us an understanding, but once they get older, we kind of fall off.
Absolutely. I definitely fell off. And it wasn't until like pretty recently that I started looking at the like 5-year-old. Basically what I'm referring to when I say research is just like the articles that can tell you about like where they are in development, what you can expect. And there are like websites like when you're pregnant, specifically on like the development at each age. And if you signed up for those, then you can still keep getting them at like 5. I don't know how far it goes because I'm only at 5 with my baby. So like that's all I know, but they're still sending them to me. And occasionally I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and look because we've been struggling. And if I can get some information on this stage of development in her life, then I mean, please help, you know?
Right. It helps you be more patient with them because you understand what they're going through. And I also think it helps you keep an eye on their development. Like if there's anything that's going wrong, you can catch it early. When I was a teacher for a toddler classroom, that introduced me to these things called ASQs. I cannot remember what ASQ stands for, but it's kind of like an assessment that assesses like their language development, physical problem solving, and social and emotional development. And I know for a fact that it goes up to like 60 months, which I think is about 5 years. Okay. 5 years old. But yes, that's something that I used to do faithfully for Nia to try to make sure. I'm a little anal, so I would not do it to like try to catch if anything was wrong. I would do it to make sure she's like up to par.
No, you're like, okay, if this where everybody else should be, this where my baby should be.
Exactly. So I'm like, we're gonna go a little bit higher just to make sure that
we're gonna be on 10.
Yes.
Yes.
But I think those are really helpful as well. You can Google ASQ and however many months your baby is, and I believe you'll be able to find one of them easily that you can print out and do with your child.
Will do. I'll be doing that. I'm starting with 10 years old. I'm just kidding.
I don't even know if it goes that high, but but I understand. And so that brings me to my next point. Something that we get wrong with parenting is not having the right structure, limits, and boundaries. So that's pretty broad. That can encompass a lot of things. But how I want to talk about it is I feel like when babies are younger, we are really on top of it when it comes to like structure, routine, just because we know that's what we're supposed to do. But as a baby gets older, parenting kind of changes a little bit. You have to redo those structures and routines and redo and start having some boundaries when it comes to certain things, but it looks different as a child ages. And I feel like a lot of parents, they kind of just let go of a lot of that structure and limits. They kind of just let things flow. That's just something that I've seen, and it's something that I kind of realized with myself a little bit. So I've definitely had to like tighten up some ropes when it comes to like having the same like wake up time, sleep time. I mean, Nia's been on a schedule since she was a baby, but there was a period where I was like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% can relate to that. Like it can, well, for starters, what you're saying about you having to consistently like readjust as a parent, like I swear parenting can be so hard. And the main like lesson that I feel like I've had to learn is that I need to consistently be able to adapt. So like what you're saying about once you get a schedule down packed, they change a little bit and then you have to do a new thing. Like, yes, that was one thing I really had to get together with, like sleep schedules. It's like, especially when they're really little, they're supposed to have 3 naps and then it goes down to 2 naps and then it goes, and then they're at 1 nap and you're like, when do I just got it. I just got it together with this and now I have to switch. But it's so important to have those schedules in place. So you better figure out how to adapt. And you better keep them schedules. You better figure out what schedule you need when, because it can be, and nobody's saying like you won't have like times where it's less important to have like, well, you won't have like, you won't mess up. Nobody's saying you won't mess up. Nobody's saying you won't have periods where it's not gonna make sense to have that schedule today. Like, but get back on it tomorrow, because it makes a difference in like their behavior. It makes a difference in like their security, like their sense of security having, and it's not just about sleep, it's about like all kinds of structure when it comes to the child. Like they need that to feel secure. Like they think they don't like structure, but they do. They do like structure.
They need it. It doesn't matter if they like it. They need it.
They need it. They do like it. It makes them feel safe, whether they realize it or not. I was talking about this with somebody. I can't think of who it was. But yeah,
and that's why I tell some parents. Some parents come to me with advice when it comes to like structure and routine. It's like I don't think I'm the best or the most structured person, but I realize that a lot of people don't have any type of structure at all, because some parents just get overwhelmed. They don't know what to do, so they just let it be. But it's like I try to tell them, I'm like, your kid is not bad. Your kid is tired. Your kid
baby's tired.
Like your baby went to bed at 11 p.m. And so I'm like, they're irritated. Like they're telling you that they need these limits, these structures, these boundaries. So absolutely, I just think it's very important. And like kids, they're so smart, but we also have to remember that we need to treat them like children.
So true. Yes,
like kids are so intelligent. Yeah. What are you gonna say?
No, yeah, we were talking about that. Like you forget, like I was telling you that with Zara, like I forget, like I'm talking to a 5-year-old sometimes, because she just like, she is really good at like having conversations, and she low-key will like while I'm talking to like my sister or you on the phone, Zara will like try and get in the conversation like, yeah, girl, like she's one of the girls, and I'll forget for a second, and then I'll be like, wait a second, you need to
stay in a child's place.
Stay in a child's place. Like, but yeah, they need to be treated like children. Definitely. Like, absolutely. Don't let them grow up too fast. Keep them in a child's place. And that, like we said, it doesn't mean like diminishing how they feel. Like they can have, they still experience the same emotions that we experience, even more so in some ways. Like it's heightened because they're not used to it. So like, yeah, they still need feel those all boundaries. Those things. They need those boundaries. Absolutely.
And I also want to add in, when it comes to treating them like children, I have this problem when it comes to high expectations and kind of criticism. And it's like when I'm constantly telling her to do certain things, it's like she's a kid. Sometimes she's going to forget, but I'm like, I'm like on top of her, like, you need to pick this up off the floor. You need to do this. You need to do that. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And it's like, she's going to forget sometimes. It's like, yes, you have to keep saying it, but you can chill a little bit, you know? Well, I feel like personally, I can chill. I can chill a little bit. Too.
Yes, I get that. Especially the getting ready in the morning. Like, oh God, I feel like we have to wake up at least 30 minutes earlier. This is like a realization I'm starting to come to. I'm like, we have to be up at least 30 minutes earlier than what we are right now, because I need to be able to allow her to move a little slow without being on top of her all day.
Yeah.
Like you said, they are still kids. We can't expect them to get up and not complain a little bit, you know. She always complains that the potty, like the toilet seat, is cold in the morning. I'm like, girl, go pee so we can go. It's cold every day. Like, let's go.
It's like, we know.
Come on. She's like, put tissue down. No, go pee.
Oh, well, that's okay. That means just we're gonna have to get heated seats in the future.
Amen.
But this leads me to my next point, which is the number one thing parents stress themselves out about is not being perfect.
Oh,
it's like, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to get things wrong. You're going to mess up. I mean, your kids are probably going to have to go to therapy. But
I think that's a great point. It's like, regardless of what you do, they're going to have to go to therapy. Like, I think I've been trying to keep myself from, I'm like, what can I do to where she doesn't like desperately need it when she's older? It's like, she's going to need it. It's a part of life at this point.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, I do think of course, you should do the best job that you can possibly do as a parent, of course. But just don't take things personally when things don't go perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent because you made a mistake. It's okay to apologize to your child when you make a mistake. Mm-hmm. I probably end up apologizing maybe once or twice a day.
Same. We apologize a lot.
And I feel like that's a good thing to show your children. It's like, yes, I'm an adult, but yes, I make mistakes. And yes, I'm taking accountability and apologizing. For you're modeling that type of behavior for your children. So they know that, okay, I'm not perfect. My mom's not perfect. She makes mistakes, but she takes accountability, and those type of qualities can rub off on them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Be who you want your child to be.
Ooh, yes. I'm glad you said it like that, because that's number one. Your child is not going to be what you want them to be. They're going to be what they're going to see how you are, and they're going to either be just like you or try to be the opposite.
Yes. That's real.
For sure. Exactly. Do as I say, not as I do doesn't work.
It don't work.
Get it out of your vocabulary. Because it does not work. It just doesn't. But that's all I have for us today.
Okay. Just to review,
the things that we get wrong with parenting is invalidating our child's feelings and emotions. Number 2, not continuing the research of their development. Number 3, not having proper structures, limits, and boundaries. And number 4, not understanding that you're not perfect and knowing that you're going to make mistakes.
Yes, all very important tips. It's hard. It's easy to say them, and then it's hard to actually apply them. Like, right. So just do your best, honestly, and they'll see that you're trying your hardest.
Actually, I don't like telling people to do their best. You know why?
Here we
because
go.
Sometimes your best is not enough.
Some people's best is not. My best is enough. Nah, just
no. I just want people to challenge themselves. Just because you think you're doing your best might not be your best. You need to listen to your children. If your children are telling you something, and if they're telling you that they don't like something, listen to them. Challenge yourself to do better than your best.
Okay. Let your bar get higher and higher. Keep trying. Okay.
Yes. You're going to make mistakes, like I said, but keep your standards high, because these are children. This is the future we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, the little future.
Our little futures. That makes me think about Nevadius. I'm sorry. Okay. We've gone into We've gone into territory, hip hop territory.
Oh, you know I don't be hip.
That's hip or
That's Future's
hop.
son?
No, that's Future's real name.
Oh, Future's son's real name is Future though.
Yes.
Dang, why they do that?
A topic for another day.
Yeah.
But that's all we have for you guys. Bye.
Bye.